Hello traders, and welcome to this market overview video from FoxEx for the week ahead commencing on Monday the 2nd of July. Let's get straight into the charts this week and begin by looking at the weekly time frames, and starting here with the Pound Oz. As you can see, the Pound Oz has reached already the end of the wealth crossover wave, and we've already seen the arrival of some buyers in the last couple of weeks, but there is plenty of room to the upside here. Also on the Pound Oz, would like to draw your attention to the fact that it is bouncing, as you can see here, off of the MTL line, which is additional confluence. And finally, there is a nice little level of support here going all the way back to 2013, which price has responded aggressively to this level in the past. So that's a confluence of factors here on the Pound Oz, and definitely one to keep an eye on in the weeks ahead. Next, let's take a look at the Euro Yen, which is very similar. Again, price is bouncing off of the end of the wealth crossover wave here on the weekly chart. Not as good and cleaner chart as the Pound Oz, because as you can see, for the last month or so we've had a bit of sideways movement. It's been quite choppy through there. However, the last week was a significant green candle, so that's quite encouraging. We don't have the bounce off the MTL line here, but we do have, when we zoom out, a nice little level back here in the middle of 2015, which is worth acknowledging. Moving on, let's take a look at the Kiwi here. Again, the Kiwi has reached the vicinity of the end of the wealth crossover wave. However, last week we saw a lot of selling here on the Kiwi. So although the Kiwi does look interesting, the buyers have clearly not arrived yet here, and so we will be waiting for a green candle or two before opening a long position. When we zoom out here on the Kiwi, we do have a little bit of a level here, so not as strong a chart as some of the others that we've already looked at. The Euro again has reached the end of the wealth crossover wave, and we have seen some buyers, and a couple of green candles have already formed. We've got a very nice large gap between the purple and blue lines, which suggests that there is plenty of room to the upside once price begins to turn and the new wave is drawn. Also here on the Euro, when we zoom out, we can see that we're at a lovely level of support, and that we have had multiple touches here since 2015, which price has responded quite aggressively to in days gone by. So Euro is definitely on the watch list in terms of a potential long position in the weeks ahead. Cable here is an interesting one too, and worth keeping an eye on. We are at the end of the wave. Buyers haven't really arrived in any great number yet. We haven't seen a significant green candle here at the bottom. However, once again, we've got a fairly nice distance between the purple and blue line, which indicates that there is plenty of room to the upside once the new wave is drawn. And again, when we zoom out, we're at a fairly decent level here. There is quite a few touches when we draw the line on, going all the way back to the middle of 2016. So this is quite a healthy looking chart, and one to keep on the watch list for sure. Finally, on the weekly time frame, let's take a closer look at the dollar CAD, which, as you can see when we zoom in, is approaching the end of the wave. We've had a nice healthy looking seller's bar last week, which is significant. When we zoom out, we can see there's also a little bit of a level here, but not too strong, to be perfectly honest. Notice that the purple and blue lines are fairly close together, which typically indicates that there's not too much room to the downside once price turns. So one for the watch list, but not as clean a chart as some of the others that we've mentioned so far on the weekly time frame. Moving on now to the daily time frame, let's begin here by taking a look at the Australian dollar against the US dollar. As you can see, price hasn't reached the end of the wealth crossover wave. However, it is in the vicinity of the end of the wealth crossover wave, and when we zoom out, we can see that there is a very nice little level of support here, and the last time price touched that level, which was back in about May of 2017, we had a very nice response and a very big run to the upside. So that's worth acknowledging. We've also had, as you can see here, some nice healthy buyer bars in the last couple of days. So the Aussie want to keep on the watch list for a potential long position in the week ahead. However, it's important to use discretion here on the Aussie. We still may get a continued push to the downside, and indeed if we do, it would be nice to reach the level shown here, which price reached back in 2017. Pound Oz, very similar situation. Price clearly did not reach the end of the wealth crossover wave thus far. However, it reached the vicinity of the end of the wave, and it also interacted, when we zoom out, with this very nice level of resistance shown here, and since then price has been more to the bearish side. So definitely want to keep an eye on in the upcoming week in terms of a potential short position. Also here on the Pound Oz, notice that it did interact with the NTL line, and that there is a nice wide gap between the purple and blue lines, which indicates that there is room to the downside. The Dow here is an interesting pair. The buyers seem to have arrived in the last couple of days, and we are right at the end of the wealth crossover wave, and again nice wide gap between the purple and the blue lines, which suggests a potential large move to the upside. However, we don't have the additional confluence of a nice level of support here on the Dow. Price is sort of floating in no man's land, so we don't have that extra layer of confidence. It's worth noting here on the Dow also, you can see that price hasn't respected any particular level of support in recent history. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different levels, and price just seems to turn when it's ready to turn. So in this case, we would be more interested in the end of the wealth crossover wave than in any sort of levels of support. The DAX here has also reached the end of the daily wave, and we do have this nice wide gap between the blue and purple lines. Very similar to the Dow, the DAX hasn't really created any consistent levels of support in recent history. So here it's more important to just simply observe where the end of the wealth crossover wave is, and then wait for some favorable price action before entering a potential long position. So that's it for this week's market overview, traders. Quite a few different markets to have a look at there, some more clean looking than others, to be perfectly honest. You can stay up to date with all of the latest moves in the markets via our online chat room, which can be accessed here, and you can also access our growing library of educational content, which is available here in the video guides tab under the help menu. So please have a look at those videos, and if you have any questions for us, you can reach out to all of us and the growing FoxEx community via our online chat room. This has been a market overview from FoxEx.